I guess. Bye-bye. Woo, windy. Whoa, zoom. Coming right back at me. Where'd he go? Where did he go? This is a cistern.
This is not Linda Cohn.
This is a cistern caused by very thirsty people.
It's a thrill a minute for me.
Here goes Linda.
I
can't wait to develop my pictures of you crying.
All right, going down.
But it's nice and cool down here through the clock. It's over 100 outside.
It's over 100 degrees outside, he just said.
Thanks, Allie.
Here they come, bringing up the rear.
The scale of Masada in the shade here. And a lot of times you don't get over to the side of the mountain, but you flew in here, so it's easy to do. Before we get going around Masada, there's a movie about Masada called Masada. And if you ever rent the video, I have to tell you before you rent it, or if you've seen it, that even though Peter Strauss was in it and other movie stars, they asked the screenwriter, like, how did you understand what to write about? And he said, I don't know what they were doing up there. So you have to take this kind of movie a little bit with a grain of salt, because today I want to tell you what the real Masada is. And before we do this, I'd like to use this book. This is a book called The Jewish War by Josephus. And the reason this is fabulous is because as you went around Israel, you saw how the Bible really...
Here's the group. This is Masada. This is Masada, but can't quite grasp it. Surrounded by the desert. Let's zoom in and see what we see. Desert. I've just done a 360. Oh, there's the group.
You're leaving in a good day.
Let's see what let's see if we can see the Dead Sea. I can't see anything. That's the Dead Sea out there. It's beautiful.
Pools in houses and villas.
This is a small swimming
Now
pool.
think about this. The reason we're looking at this is, think about coming here 2,000 years ago and having water. It does not rain here that much. There are no springs here. And the southern side of the Dead Sea only rains about 2 inches a year. The northern side, 4. And last year was a drought. So it was like this much. Where did they get the water from? Think about it from what you saw in Jordan, okay? Because that's part of the secret. Let's go.
I have a question.
Yes.
The blackfish.
It's the Dead Sea from Masada. So nice.
Okay, we're going in now one of 2 palaces. I don't want to walk the other side and then walk this way because it's too hot to do. So we're walking backwards and nobody's up there now.
This isn't to a
This is
palace.
the entrance of one of the palaces. Look how big this is.
Here goes everyone. Oh,
And here you can see how
The
they made
Western
mosaic
Palace.
floors. First of all, they put rocks down. Then they put some kind of cement down or filling. Then they drew rock lines around here. And then it was just like today. People today are like people they were 2,000 years ago. What did they do? They went to the pattern books and they said, well, you know, waves are nice. And here to put the candles, but they weren't candles then. They were olive oil lamps. Here you can see a continuation of the mosaic
Where's
floor
that?
down over here. And this was, this was a 3-story
this is
house
where you-
basically. It goes down to the
you put
cisterns
the
in some
olive oil
places.
candle.
And it has the
Why?
bottom floor. And here you can see the black line. Here is how high it was, and you see where there are pillars. This is the second floor. So they have a 2-story house here. In addition to it,
for
There
that.
are places here. Some people say it's Roman after Herod. Some people say it's the Zealots. Remember, these are the rebels. They came up here, and they were appalled, possibly, by all the luxury. They needed to build a bath or an oven. They built it right on the mosaic floor, ruining the aesthetics, but they didn't care. They were up here as refugees running away to the Romans. In fact, they're the ones that built it. Let's go over here. This is artificially built by the slaves when they attacked Masada.
Those two round things are?
No, the whole thing. See where the path
Right.
goes up? All the way up here.
where those
And this
two
is
are.
where they conquered Masada. Now, just to give you an idea, again, we're going to put this into position and into place once we get into a shady area. What we can see here are a few things. The Roman ramp, where they came through it and conquered Masada, the Romans. You can see the squares, the rock squares over there. You see where I'm pointing?
Yes.
That is a Roman camp. That is the main Roman camp. And you see, yeah, that big square. And you see it looks like an anthill of rocks going like this all the
Yes.
way around. That is the Roman siege wall. Because when the Zealots were up here, maybe the Romans couldn't get up quickly, but they weren't going to escape. Okay, that was it. Now the other thing I'd like to show you here is, do you see the parking lot down there? There's a white car to the on the far left, on the far right. And then there's some kind of structure over there. That is a 1-to-1 scale model of Roman siege equipment built for the movie Masada, so it's still there. And why am I pointing this out? Because that siege equipment was pushed up to this ramp to help try to get into the city. And why I'm saying this is because it shows you how sophisticated the Romans were. And throughout history, when people developed better types of metals and became more sophisticated in war, society started to advance. Isn't that interesting? That society started to advance with war and cultures and everything else. And the Romans were extremely, extremely sophisticated in building, but also in warfare and war machines. In addition to which, I'd like to point one other thing out. Do you see the shed in the far back? Yeah. In back of it, there's another structure. That's a scale model of a missile launcher, Roman style. And what they would launch from down here are like grapefruit-sized rocks and shoot them over the walls to attack. Over here, let's keep walking here because it is sunny. The rocks, you can't even move these things. So my philosophy is, my theory is, they must have had a lot of bad backs in the Roman period. But these were placed up on the walls by the Jews to roll down on the Romans in case they attacked from other places, which would not be very nice if you got hit by one. This is the synagogue. Now, the synagogue had a roof.
Synagogue. I think you're very bad.
And you can see the pillars. Everything was plastered over, tiled floors also. But think about it. How did they know it's a synagogue? When you were in Jerusalem, you went to the wall though, right? Yes. Okay. When you're, this is the original plaster. And underneath you can see they have areas with cisterns and things. Let's go in here.
It's the bathhouse.
This is the first room. There's a group in front of me. Just 1 minute, okay? I just want to show you here. This is the first room. Look at the coloring here. Throw this shirt outside for 1 week and it will not look this nice. This coloring is 2,000 years old. The tiles here are patterned tiles in triangle. If it's putzai,
We just want to pass.
they have found a few mikvahs here. The mikvahs were a brilliant thing. Think about coming as an archaeologist, finding a mikvah, and talking about Jewish roots, generation to generation. And they had the rabbis check them out. They were the perfect coordinates. This is the story of the three little bears. That's the cold room, that's the hot room, and this room is just right. But you can see it's also tiled floors. The tiles have been taken, possibly by the Romans after the battle. You can see this arch is a Roman arch. What does this mean? It's a subtle way of saying the Romans knew physics. You take this stone out, everything collapses. If you ever built Lego or bricks or anything else, you know this. You had to have equal pressure. The Romans knew how to use concrete. They knew how to use the perfect pressure point. So they were sophisticated also in building, not just math and science. Let's go over here. Interrupts us, that's okay. This room, they didn't know what they had originally. But then they started putting all of the logic and archaeology together. These little pillars, which they didn't find standing up, are pillars that held up a floor, tiled floor. Then they found places here on the walls that had some kind of tiling, but then they figured out, oh, it's not tiling. They looked farther and they found these have been reconstructed. These are insulation pipes. And the insulation pipes have holes in it, and it goes down under the floor. Here they found another hole. This hole goes out to an oven. So under the floor, from the oven, they had bellows like this, blowing the hot air, going up the pipes, making this room hot. And it's just like a modern schwitz. You put water on the floor, it was tiled, you have a hot house, the sweat room. Now, תן לי עוד שנייה, אני כבר אסיים. מי המדריך פה? בסדר? לא, אני... The other thing here, this is basically two things. One, we talked about the power. They're standing here. Let's come to the palace. This is a three-tiered palace. People thought, as I said, there was mosaic floors, but they thought it was decorated in marble here. Now over here, you can see the mountains. There's nothing up here. How did they get the water? In Jerusalem, you remember it's like 800 meters above sea level. It rains a lot there, but it rains in a very short period. And here you saw how short a distance it is from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. And if you're having a good day feeling great about yourself, just know you're in the Dead Sea, it's the lowest point of the earth, right? Everybody else is above you, right? But it's such a short distance that the water comes down as flash floods. Like the cowboy movies get out of the canyons, you know, the flash
We've
floods
heard
are coming.
about that. They sound
And
incredible.
when they're this deep, it'll wash you into the sea. It's like tidal wave kind of energy. It's solid wall of water. And it goes down the mountain, it gets more powerful. So what did they do in the ancient world? Here, Qumran, but other places, even in Petra, they used the nature that was around them. So when the water came down these wadis, like walls of water, they then built, you can see down below, it looks like a row of rocks here. This is a canal. They've channeled canals over to areas. Down below, they built caves underneath the mountain. Then they carried the water up by pulleys and everything else to a place called the water gate. And then they would fill up water up here. Now, they had enough water for everything we saw, plus they had mikvahs, plural. Mikvahs are interesting because think about being a...
Each one of these was a storage room. There were 17 in total. Enough to live for 1,000 years. My name is Linda. I'm signing off.
With the Dead Sea, most people just have metal over them.